You're listening to Southeast Radio's Business Matters, with thanks to Wexford Insurances. Wexford Insurances. More information at wexfordinsurance.com.
I'm joined now by Mr. Paul Roche, Managing Director of Net Communications. Good morning, Paul.
Morning, Karl.
Thank you very much for joining me this morning, Paul. As the MD of Net Communications, can you tell me a bit about what you do, please?
Net Communications was established in 1996. We're an IT company. We've about 30 staff. Our main head office is here in Enniscorthy, and we've got a regional office in Cork and in Dublin. So we provide a full range of IT services to, I suppose, three sectors: the education sector, the SME sector, and the enterprise sector.
And where did the idea originate from for the business back in 1996?
Well, it was interesting at the time. I was always involved in IT. I had actually gone to college to do teaching of all things, but was very, very interested in IT. And the internet had kind of established in Ireland in 1994. We were very involved, a couple of us that were interested in IT around Enniscorthy, in bulletin boards and getting on the early internet. And it really came about doing a communication over the net, hence the name Net Communications. And we'd set up the company with the idea of doing websites.
I know that you started off as a secondary school teacher yourself. That was a big leap from, I suppose, the public sector into the private sector, giving up a pensionable job in that. Did you find that decision hard to make?
Like many decisions you make when you're younger and very keen on driving a business, I didn't think about it in too much detail, but it was a big decision. I mean, at the time, I was married. I had one daughter at the time, and it was a big move to take a leave from a good permanent pensionable job into the company, and actually it had a big impact as well, because I effectively gave up a salary that the company couldn't fully support. So even income-wise, I took a bit of a drop when I made that move.
I suppose no better motivator than to make you go out and build a business from the ground up at that stage. What were the big challenges at the very beginning for you?
We had a number of challenges. I mean, I remember clearly one of the big challenges about a year after we had established was we had a deal arranged with 3 schools to provide a load of IT equipment. We were short £20,000 as it was at the time, and I'd gone to the bank, prepared a proposal. The business was guaranteed, it was schools, it was dependable income. And the bank just looked at it and said, look, I'd really like to help, but unfortunately we can't. And I'd also had maxed out my supplier's credit. We went to a friend of mine who met me, and he said, this is really, really not on. He brought a colleague of his up who was involved in loan equipment and loan funding for financing and cars. He met me that night. I presented the proposition to him, and he effectively said, yeah, I can give 10,000 to each of the directors, kind of unsecured, for a month. He provided us with that funding. We did the contract. We made a good bit of money. We paid back the 20,000. We got extended credit terms at the bank and from the suppliers, and it was really one of them inflection point moments whereby it worked out great, and we are where we are now. But without it, I don't know. I could have easily gone away and put my head down and said, look, how can you build a business in this environment?
From the beginning, what particular types of clients did you target?
When we started off, because I was leaving the education sector as a teacher, I was kind of keen to stay away from education. So we targeted the SME sector, the sort of small to medium business. And I remember, not arrogant, but you're quite brash about trying to get sales in at that stage. So we did the very basic things that we knew how to do well. We sent a letter out to every business in Enniscorthy initially, explaining our services, and then we got on the phone and we rang each one of them, and I was amazed at the uptake we could have by simply just being direct and offering a good, efficient quality of service. So for the first couple of years, the SME sector would have been a key area, but then education, as I kind of knew it would, started to gradually claw its way back into our company.
I know that the government over the past 20 years have invested heavily in grant aiding schools across the country to put IT equipment in. Have you benefited from that with your own business?
Certainly in the last couple of years we would have. I mean, as anyone is aware, in the last 2 or 3 years there's been significant funding into education, particularly around interactive whiteboards and around the purchase of laptops and desktops, and absolutely we would have benefited quite a bit from that. But we were only able to benefit from that from the work we had done over the previous 10 years, whereby we became a kind of a trusted advisor into education, into schools. Many of our competitors would go into schools and would simply respond to a request for 5 or 10 computers. We would go into a school and we'd sit down and we'd say, look at what are you trying to achieve here? What are you going to use technology for? Who is it influencing? Is it the students, the teachers, the parents? What are your pain points? And try and do up a plan specific for that school. And we got a very trusted relationship with schools from that.
So from the beginning you went in to provide, I suppose, a support service to schools with a view to maintaining their own equipment, and then from there you developed a relationship into becoming a trusted advisor with a view to providing overall hardware into the schools themselves.
Yes, I mean, one of the pain points for, same as a business or a school has the same, is actually supporting the equipment. So initially, I'm actually, when I set up the company, and a mistake I made was that I was kind of nearly load of salespeople. To some extent, I wasn't convinced that they could give the right perception for the company out. So we had a very strong technical base, drove our technical expertise, which was really beneficial in the early days, but you suddenly realise that you absolutely have to have salespeople on board to grow a company as well.
How instrumental has the rollout of broadband been with a view to developing your own business?
Broadband is absolutely core to what we do and what we provide customers. I mean, in the current moment, at the moment, we have a managed help desk that is a central monitoring station for all our clients nationwide. In the education sector, we cover the length and breadth of the country. We have clients in Leitrim, right down to Kenmare, and the broadband facilitates us accessing their systems remotely, monitoring their systems remotely, and providing all the content and support that we can. So broadband is critical, not only for us, but also for our customers, even to the extent that phone calls at this stage, we're making them over broadband.
What challenges did you come across on the way to nationwide service provision?
All the usual challenges that anyone who's ever tried to go nationwide incur. How do you justify someone going all the way down to West Cork for a 1 hour repair job, even though you may well have supplied a kind of a full infrastructure solution earlier? So there's a scale issue. I mean, we wouldn't have been in a position to go. I mean, we effectively offered a nationwide service from about 2007 onwards. 2008, we wouldn't have been in a position to offer it earlier because we wouldn't have had a return on the investment required. Hence, we have a base now in Cork, and I said we have a base in Dublin.
Earlier on, you mentioned interactive whiteboards. What exactly are they?
It's a touch board. It's very like people are familiar with iPads now. It's a touch board or a pen-based board that has a projector on it hooked up to a laptop or a computer in the classroom. Traditionally, teachers would have used a traditional whiteboard or chalkboard in my day. Now they're all interactive, so the content that the teacher has, the presentations are coming up on a board. The students or the teacher can interact with the board, so they can touch it, they can move things around. This was one thing that we spotted as a key driver for education. I travelled quite a bit, and it was evident in 2008 that in the US there's something like 80% penetration of whiteboards. The UK had over 85%. We were running at 6%. So it was evident that when funding was coming down the line that interactive whiteboards was certainly going to be high on the agenda for schools.
And what did you do to prepare Net Communications for that opportunity?
For us to prepare for that, we had a number of challenges and opportunities. The first one is that you have to engage with a global vendor manufacturer to get the support from them. It wouldn't be sufficient for us to simply buy an ad hoc number of boards here and there from a local distribution company. So we engaged and we signed a contract with Promethean, which would be one of the largest providers of interactive whiteboards worldwide, and they gave us the support to really attack the Irish market. Similarly, we would have done the same with HP from a computer and desktop point of view, that we needed the support from a kind of a global, well-known manufacturing brand to try and target that market.
And what do you feel have been the drivers in relation to technology advancements in schools?
It's content and the nature of learning that is transforming the whole education system at the moment. You can see so much information is available on the internet. I gave an analogy recently to someone whereby I saw a 10-year-old with a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire game on an iPad, and the questions were too hard for him, but he was looking up the answers on a laptop beside him. Children can learn themselves now, and the future and nature of education, and even from my own education background, you can see that it's going to be about facilitating learning. We see a huge emergence around digital books, and we're a huge partner with Apple as well here, and we provide a lot of Apple iPads into education. If you go into one of the local schools in town here, St. Aidan's in Enniscorthy, they're one of the leading adopter schools in the country on iPods and iPads, and they have classrooms of students doing all their learning and learning support across mobile devices. So we see a huge change in the way people learn.
I know that in 2009 you became a key partner to HP. How did that come about?
We were doing quite good work in education, and I said establishing ourselves as a trusted advisor and differentiating ourselves, I suppose, from competitors in the sense that we understood education and went quite deep in it. HP approached us. They had been working with a very large global company in terms of providing input into education, and we are now HP's lead partner nationwide into education. So we supply HP equipment from first, second and third level, and they've been instrumental in working with us on growth. So they would work with us on events and roadshows. They give us the support we require, and we've had a lot of technical training to the extent that we now action our own warranty repairs on HP equipment, and it's a very, very strategic and important relationship to us.
Apart from the education sector, what other sectors are you dealing with?
All the way along, we worked with education and SME. One of the sectors we had no exposure to at all was the enterprise corporate sector. We would have had great difficulty entering that sector probably prior to 2008, 2009, because we wouldn't have had the expertise in some areas, and we wouldn't have also had the financing to approach that sector. So halfway through 2011, we looked at adding an extra strand to our business, which was the corporate enterprise sector. We looked at a number of ways going into that market. One of them was to acquire a company, and we'd looked very closely at the Dublin area for that. But in the end, we decided to recruit 5 key people that would have had each over 10 years experience in the corporate enterprise space. And since later 2011, we've now got a strong enterprise corporate team who target the pharmaceuticals, local government, manufacturing companies. So it effectively gives us 3 strands to our company now, which is the enterprise corporate sector, the SME sector, and the education sector.
And do you see growth coming from the corporate sector over the coming years?
We see huge growth. We're already amazed at the investment that they are making. Their investment in the corporate enterprise space is obviously around areas like virtualization, cloud, storage, but it's also around mobile device management. The days of employers simply providing a laptop to an employee is changing. Now employees have their own iPads, their own laptops, and managing these devices, whereby even we can put implementations in place now where you bring an iPad into a factory or a manufacturing plant and it turns off the cameras in certain applications. They leave again, they're turned on again. So a lot of opportunity around mobile device management and services into the enterprise space.
I know that technology is a sector that changes very, very quickly. How do you keep up with those changes from a global perspective?
It's changing so fast at the moment. I said the period we look at is really a communications revolution and will be as clearly defined as the industrial revolution was previously. We have to keep up to date with training. We have to make sure our staff are up to date with training. And myself, I am a great believer in travelling and experiencing a lot of other companies and countries so that you can see the wood from the trees. One of the things that was instrumental in that was actually becoming involved in a peer group.
What is a peer group?
Okay, the peer group is a network of 12 companies that agree to share all their information, sign non-disclosure, non-compete. The peer group we're a member of, which is called HG, has 24 of these groups worldwide. I'm a member of a group in the UK with 2 other companies from Ireland. They're effectively my external board of directors. It has the benefit of a number of things. It gives me great exposure to trends emerging from the US and from the UK, and we can see this particularly recently around cloud provisioning. A lot of our backup and disaster and business continuity solutions are all from the US and are probably a year to 18 months ahead of anything else in Ireland at the moment. So it's given me great visibility on trends emerging in the IT infrastructure sector.
How did you hear about these peer groups?
The peer group we're a member of, we actually heard about, we implemented to run our company successfully. And when we were doing a large transactional business with education, we have to be very, very efficient. So we implemented a large scale ERP system into the company that integrates all our marketing, quoting, sales, service, support and accounting functionality. And it's a US-based application. They have their support in the UK. So I travel to the UK once a quarter. I heard it mentioned over there and it sounded really, really interesting because it gave us the benchmarking against other companies to compare how we perform against other companies as well.
Is there a cost involved in becoming associated with a group like that?
There is a cost, but it's a nominal cost. But the real cost is the time. We meet once a quarter, 3 times in the UK, once in the US, and we have a conference call once a month. And a lot of costs might be perceived as, I suppose time inputs. We have to do a lot of business plans together, a lot of presentations to effectively a board of directors. The financial cost is small.
What is your ambition for Net Communications for the next 3 years?
Our ambition for Net Communications for the next 3 years is very, very strong growth. We hope to grow this company to be over double the size over the next 3 to 4 years. We're just opening a base in Dublin. We have some staff working at Dublin the last year or two, but we intend to expand rapidly into Dublin. We have a base in Cork, and we intend to grow our base here in County Wexford because most of our support infrastructure will always remain in County Wexford. But we see an opportunity to be the major provider of ICT to education in Ireland, to have a very, very strong enterprise sector and a core SME business built on latest standards in managed services technology.
Well, look, it's a very insightful story, and I thank you for sharing it with me this morning, and I wish yourself and Net Communications every success in the future.
Welcome back to Southeast Radio's Business Matters, with thanks to Wexford Insurances. Wexford Insurances. All your insurance needs dealt with on 0818 31 30 30.